Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining tonight's Tuesday Talks webinar. My name is Susan Braun, and I am the Associate Director of Family Programs. It is a pleasure to be hosting this webinar on Limitless Possibilities PlusOne Accelerated Master's Program. At the end of the presentation, we will be taking questions, so you'll be able to type them in the Q&A pod on the right-hand side. So let's get started. Thank you, Tom, so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Susan, it's great to be with you again on Tuesday Talks, and it's great to be with all of you who are attending tonight. And I am really excited tonight to be talking about what I think is one of the most exciting flexibility features in our curriculum here at Northeastern for an undergraduate, which is our PlusOnes. And what I'm going to be emphasizing during the next few minutes that I'm going to be talking is it really gives your student a chance to customize, personalize, and accelerate their program here at Northeastern, and at the end have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree as part of that program. So let's get started and talk a little bit about what a PlusOne is and how we go about, how a student goes about applying to be in a PlusOne. So this is the agenda for tonight. I'll talk about why a student may want to choose a PlusOne, what the program structure is, and look at a couple of examples of eligible undergraduate and graduate combinations. I'm not going to give you all of these because, frankly, there are now, I suspect, well over 100 combinations, if not more. I'll mention a few of the program and financial benefits, and then at the end, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have for me about the programs that we're going over. So, first of all, I want to make sure that we all are using the same definition for a PlusOne. What is it? This is an accelerated master's program. So it really doesn't impact, in particular, the graduation requirements for a bachelor's degree. I'll talk a little bit more about that. This is really about accelerating the time a student spends as a graduate student in the master's program. It's also important to understand that a PlusOne is a sequential degree. A student will complete the master's after having received their bachelor's. It's not a simultaneous award of those two degrees. Also, in a minute, I'm going to talk about the fact that the PlusOne is really controlled by the receiving master's program. And so they are going to determine the admissions for that program. They're also going to determine credit sharing and any sort of preliminary courses that a student may need. You'll see that the whole basis, and this is the drawing at the bottom of the slide, the whole basis for this is that credit sharing between some courses that are taken during the time the student is in the bachelor's program, and then those credit shared courses are applied toward the master's. So that's the fundamental structure of the PlusOne, is credit sharing and also sequential awarding from the bachelor's to the master's. So how does a student satisfy this credit sharing? Well, what they do is they either use open elective slots, or they may do some substitutions of required courses in their bachelor's program in order to make room or to share those credits across the two programs. It's also important, as I mentioned, to keep in mind that there may be some master's programs where the student may have to take some prep courses. For example, if a student is coming from social sciences or humanities, and now with our new flexibility wants to go into a more technical science, technology-based master's, that master's may ask them to take some preparatory courses so they can be ready to take the master's courses for that degree. So this is going to get to my next point, which is that because you're using slots, open elective slots, or in some cases you're doing some substitution with required courses, it takes some very careful planning to go through the PlusOne. And I also want to emphasize that students have to apply for the master's. So just because they've been admitted into the bachelor's program, it does not automatically mean that they have been admitted into the PlusOne master's portion. They will have to apply as if they were applying to a graduate school because, in fact, that's what they were doing. Our rules here at the university say that they have to apply for this master's program no later than one semester prior to completing their bachelor's. That's pretty flexible. They don't really have to decide until their senior year, one semester before they're going to graduate. So there's plenty of time for them to be thinking about this. But having said that, they also have to make sure that if they're going to take advantage of those shared credits, that they leave plenty of time to account for those and to take those courses. There may also be some earlier requirements for admissions. We have what's now called a +JD. This means that any bachelor's student, completion bachelor's student, can apply for our law school to get their JD and have a whole year of overlap with the JD program. But because of that overlap, they have to be planning well ahead of that year when they want to start taking these courses. When they're going to need to apply to the program, how they're going to do that shared credit course scheduling, because keep in mind also that often graduate courses do not appear on the schedule as often as bachelor's degree courses. And there will probably have to be some coordination with the destination master's school or college. I think this is probably the most important point, again, that I want to reemphasize, which is that undergraduate admissions is administered centrally, as you well know from your experience of helping your student apply for the bachelor's degree, whereas grad admissions are done in a highly distributed manner across every school and college, and then broken down often into decisions that are made by departments. And even within departments, it may be broken down further into discipline-based admissions. So this is something that I just want to make you aware of so that you know how the system works for graduate school admissions, and that's important, whether it's a +1 or regular graduate admissions after the bachelor's. So that school or college or department, they may have required prep work, as I said, especially if you're coming from a field well outside of the master's that is being pursued. And they may have minimum undergraduate GPA requirements before they allow students into their program. So this is, again, not connected to the fact that your student has been admitted to the bachelor's degree. It's a separate admissions process. And again, it's up to the host program with the student headed, that destination master, whether they're going to admit your student or not into their program. I should also say part of the minimum GPA, for example, is that we want to make sure students are set up for success. And so they want to make sure students that are coming into the master's programs are well prepared even in that path at a higher level. For those of you that may have a student who's an international student, they would need to obtain a new I-20 because now they're entering into a new degree program once they're in the master's program. And our Office of Global Services can certainly help your student to navigate that transition with a new I-20 that they need for the master's position. So as I said, if I were to name the number of eligible combinations across the university, we'd be here a long time, and I think you'd be bored by the end. But what I want to say is that we now have a very different structure starting this year that's going to open up tremendous flexibility for our students. Under the old structure, if you were to look in our catalog tonight, what you would see is these fixed combinations between certain bachelor's degrees and certain master's degrees. They were very fixed. It was difficult to find the various combinations in our catalog because they were listed under the various departments. What I've been instrumental in this year in doing is creating a new flexibility option, which I've called the Open +1. And this includes that +JD program I referred to earlier, where students from any bachelor's degree program can actually apply for the 3+3 law degree program. And what we've done is we've had each of the schools and colleges at Northeastern have taken their masters and opened them up, in many cases, for virtually any bachelor's degree to cross over into that master's, this Open +1. Very soon there will be a website that will be coming out that will allow you and your students to explore the listing of +1 combinations in a much more user-friendly way. As I said, currently in the catalog, This is not an easy navigation, and we're aware of that, and we're working on a way for students to dial in their bachelor's degree and then see what master's degree can be matched with those in a shared credit +1, such as I've described. I wanted to do a quick example, which is if you look in the catalog again tonight and you went to the master's program in public health, there is only one +1 option for that. You had to be a health science Bachelor of Science in order to do a +1 with the MPH, the Masters in Public Health. Under our new open +1 program, all bachelor's majors can pursue a +1 in that MPH, that Masters in Public Health. A good example, I'm a civil engineer, civil and environmental engineer. A good example is from my own discipline. We have a number of students who are getting a BS in environmental engineering who are very interested in applying that to public health. They will now be allowed to pursue or have the opportunity to pursue that +1 with the MPH. And there are countless other examples that all of the colleges have contributed to create this more open structure. So again, terrific flexibility, added flexibility for your students looking at these different combinations. And just to go further, a little bit further with this example, we've even specified what courses students should take if they're going to pursue a +1 in the MPH. And you can see the 4 courses that are listed there, and the advisor now knows that list and can help your students schedule those during their bachelor's degree slots so that they can go seamlessly into that master's program once they're accepted. And I'm happy to answer questions after we're done if there are more questions about that. What are the benefits of doing this? Why would a student want to do this? Well, certainly the acceleration piece of this is huge. And I'm going to talk more about the financial and time benefits of doing this. But because of the open +1, this is allowing our students to now cross-train. They can get a bachelor's in one discipline and then a master's in another that may be connected and may be complementary for a career path that your student is thinking about. And then in a more traditional way, a student may want to get a master's in the same discipline. Again, using that example from environmental engineering, a student may want to get a bachelor's in environmental engineering and also get that Master of Science in environmental engineering for the specialization that affords them through that combination. And this will allow students to complete either a unique combination that they think will be more marketable out in the job market, or they're getting their advanced training that may be required by the job market done, and they're getting it done in 5 years through some combination and through leveraging those course overlaps that we've already talked about. So the other program benefits that I like to tout in terms of the +1 is that in that 5th year, they get to be a real grad student. They're with other grad students. They are grad students officially. I've already mentioned, and I put it in again to just remind people that graduate schools are likely to have a little bit stricter GPA requirements for graduation. Typically, remaining good standing as a grad student, you have to have a 3.0. So it's a little more strict than the undergraduate requirement for GPA. I also like that +1s help students decide if maybe they'd like to keep going in school. Maybe that's not good news for some of the parents and families here, but if it's right for them, then they may decide that that's a great thing for them to keep going because they get the bug to continue in graduate school. Or maybe go and do a doctorate in education, a professional doctorate. This also lets students try out grad study as an undergrad during that shared course period. So they don't have to go on to the master's degree if they don't want to. If they find that it just isn't for them, it was a great way for them to kind of stick their toe in the water and figure out whether they like taking graduate courses while still in that bachelor's phase of their education. Or they can continue on, obviously, to the master's portion. And finally, the text in red, which is what I started with, is clearly accelerates the completion of the master's because of that course sharing. And this really gets to the financial benefits of pursuing a +1. There is an automatic discount built into the master's program because of the shared credits. Because typically 2 to 4 courses are shared with the bachelor's degree, that amounts to a 25 to 50% discount on the cost of the master's degree. Having an advanced degree also helps career progression over time. The Labor Department estimates that by 2022, almost 20% of the jobs in the U.S. will need a master's degree as a requirement. I meet students, former students all the time who are back getting a master's after they've been out working, or maybe they're starting to raise a family. And if any of you have ever done that, you know that that's tough. It's a much tougher way to go to school. And I admire the dedication of that mode of going to get their master's. But this is a way to get that credentialing done early and then be ready for the job market as a result. There are also the higher salaries that go with having a master's. Starting salaries are generally much higher, and it's been shown that advanced degree holders generally earn 35% more than bachelor's degree holders over the lifespan of their careers. So there are some tremendous financial benefits, both from an immediate discount on the master's degree, but also in terms of career salaries over time that can be increased as a result of the master's to obtain. So what I'd like to do is wrap up by emphasizing a couple of key points, which is really +1s are, I think, again, as I said at the beginning, one of the most useful and exciting ways and flexible ways that a student can customize and personalize and accelerate their experience while they're here at Northeastern and take advantage of being at a Research One university where faculty teach both undergraduates, but also in more specialty areas at the master's and then PhD level. And now, because we have this more open +1 structure where we've really expanded the number of combinations across multiple bachelor's and master's combinations, I think students are going to be very creative and very innovative in the way that they decide to put these combinations together. And we're prepared to offer those sets of combinations +1 that we've talked about. I'm always happy to answer questions that you may have about this program and about these features. And certainly if I don't know the answer or can't advise your student specifically, I'll certainly connect your student or you with the appropriate academic advisor in school or college where your student is. But certainly reach out to me if there's any way that I can answer questions you may have about this feature of our curriculum.
Thank you, Tom. So at this time, we'll begin taking questions from our audience. Again, the Q&A pod is on the right side of your screen. Please type in your questions. We do ask that you refrain from posting personal questions pertaining to your students, and we will try to do our best to get to all the questions. So let's begin. Let's start from the beginning here, Tom. So what is the earliest a student can apply into the program?
Yeah, we have students that often apply in the early third year of their program here, because that means that they want to start using some of those open electives or slots in their junior and senior year that are going to be the leveraged or shared credits. So typically colleges will have some restrictions on this, but certainly students can apply in that third year, and it will be especially in the third year if you're going to be thinking about the +JD.
So someone's asking, are MBA programs available as a +1 major for all majors or for all program majors?
They are not, and the reason for that is our MBA program here at Northeastern, and that's similar to places like Harvard, is that they generally have a student body that have had some work experience. We believe that's a more robust and educational experience for their MBA, not for MBA.
You had mentioned there's various majors and to look into the course catalog and all that, but are there any majors that you know of at schools which the +1 is typically not available?
There are some selected combinations that are not available, and these are going to be typically, I would say as a general rule, master's programs that are highly science or engineering or other technology-based master's programs where a student who, and I'm going to I'll pick on one social science major. My apologies to history majors everywhere, but if you're a history major and then you think you were going to get a master's in electrical engineering, obviously there are way too many prerequisites to get someone prepared to do that master's. So that would be a typical example. But I would say barring those sort of extreme examples where the prep is just too extensive to enter into the master's, generally the combinations are fairly open.
Is there a certain grade point average that students have to get into the program?
That is where, that gets back to my point about distributed admission. So that is going to vary. Those specifications can be generally found in the college or websites.
People are asking kind of certain specifics in colleges, and I don't know if you know, the combination. So in the DeMoore McKinn College of Business, do you know the different options that students could take for the master's there?
I don't have specifics there. As we said, the MBA is not eligible, but I do know the master, I believe it's the Master's in Finance is one that's available. We're hearing that students coming out of undergraduate math majors and so on really wanted to pursue that. So as I said, I hope within about 2 to 3 weeks this website will be live. We've just completed all of the sort of planning and submissions for these new combinations, and now I've just tasked our website group to make sure that we're putting that on the web. So you should see that probably again within the next 2 to 3 weeks. You'll see additional information on that.
This is a good question. Someone's asking, how do employers with whom students have done co-ops with under the bachelor's degree program, and they've offered a job, let's say, and they want to go onto the master's program?
I would probably say that that's going to be a discussion that that the student's going to want to have with their employer. For example, if they were offered a job, I suspect where this is headed is if they were offered a job at the end of their final co-op as an undergraduate, and then your student says, "Hey, boss, I'd like to go for this +1, and I won't be able to start for another year and a half." I think that's a discussion that may vary widely. So I think that's something that I think the student and the employer really work together. And in some fields they may say great, in some other fields they may say, "Why don't you talk to me when you're done?" But I can't guarantee.
If a student has a merit scholarship, can they carry that into the +1 program or scholarship money?
Financial aid cannot be used once a student becomes a master's student. So they can be used up to the end of that 4th year while they're still a bachelor's student. I think that's also something you want to talk with your financial aid counselor about. Once students become graduate students, those are undergraduate designated funds that cannot be used toward the master's program.
There are a lot of questions out here that are saying the combined majors and people giving questions. I'm an engineering major, I'm a healthcare major. For instance, what are the benefits of students looking to pursue healthcare graduate education? And I think that is a question probably that they would find like on the website, the different combined majors, right? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of why you would pursue a particular combination,
there's a lot of questions, like with civil engineering, what are my choices? And so yeah,
so with engineering, you're going to have a lot more choices in terms of crossing over because you're to virtually any master's, because they're going to already have any of the tech and science basis for most master's degree. Now, that's not going to be universally true, but I think as a general rule, if you're same with a science major, if you have taken all the math and science that typically goes with, let's say, being a physics major, you are going to have kind of more of your choice across the technology, science, engineering span. It really is the opposite way that's not going to work very well. That if you were in a non-tech, non-engineering, non-science undergraduate major, and you want to, again, pursue a master's in something that is in that realm, that may not be possible and probably isn't going to be an option for that student. And I hope I hope I've been clear enough about that. So.
Someone is asking, is there housing available? I think you could email me at parents@northeastern.edu, and I absolutely find out the case, because I know they cannot guarantee it, but I believe students can put a deposit on it. So, yeah. Can a finance undergraduate major go for a +1 program in computer science programming?
I believe they can. And there may be some prerequisites that they have to fulfill. And I don't have all the combinations. Like I said, I don't have all the combinations in front of me. And once this website goes live, students are going to be able to explore that exact question, which is, I hope they're going to be able to on one dial put their bachelor's degree that they're getting, and then another dial is going to show them, what all the master's possibilities are for them.
You said the new website will be up in 2 weeks, right?
I would say, I'll say 2 to 4 weeks just to be conservative, because there's plenty of work to do, but they are working on the prototype now.
Is there a percentage of students who apply for the +1 program and are not able to get in? Do we have any statistics on
I don't have any statistics on that. I think very often students get better guidance early on from their advisor. And I would say that most students that meet minimum GPA requirements are generally going to get into the master's. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm just saying that, most master's programs here want more students, and they would like to they love having our undergraduates in those programs. And so as a general rule, I would say the minimum GPA is going to be a factor. And there's obviously, they're not going to be generally not taking GREs. They're not taking other tests or other things to assess their capabilities. So it really is going to be heavily dependent on minimum GPA for most programs.
Good to know. You had mentioned this in the very beginning when we started taking questions about when students should really plan. I mean, is it ever too early? I mean, is it something that you would think of as a first-year student?
We have first-year students that think about it, and I think it's certainly exciting for them to consider and think about it. But as I said, I always caution students that it's great to be thinking about it and then starting to plan for it, but don't get too distracted by that bright shiny object in the future. Before you make sure you're doing the work to finish your bachelor's. Mm-hmm. That's the priority, and that should be what they work with their academic advisor and are working hard to reach that goal.
In the +1 year program, if a student's in their last year of doing the +1, they do not do any co-ops, correct?
They generally do not do co-ops. Yep.
We have time for a couple more questions. Did we have the website? Will the link that will be up there? Or?
It's going to be it's going to be off of the main website under undergraduate education. Okay. So it will be off of that site, and I'm going to try to make it as easily findable as possible for everybody. Okay.
Yeah. And just so all our audience members know that we do record this session, and the PowerPoint will be available probably by next Monday, and we will be sending you an email with the PowerPoint and information about the +1 program. So I think that's all the questions we have for tonight. Tom, I want to thank you so much for sharing all this interesting things. I think you had a really good point. It's good to finish the education and to be able to graduate with a master's degree in that time. Yeah. So at this time, I would like to thank you for joining us. I am going to send out a short survey in a moment. So if you could take a moment to complete it, we would appreciate any feedback you have. And again, this is our contact information for the Office of Family Programs. Please email us at parents@northeastern.edu. If you think we didn't get to your question, we'd be more than happy to answer it.